You're listening to the Productive Therapist Podcast, the world's greatest and most brilliant resource for busy therapists who'd rather be laying on a beach in Hawaii. Each episode is packed with simple tips and inspiring insights from the Productive Therapist team to help you grow your practice and have fun doing it. So without further ado, let's help you get more done and have more fun.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Uriah and I'm so glad that you're listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast at all, please give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That would mean the world to me. So today I had an awesome conversation with a new friend, Tory, who's the managing director of Proactive Therapy, a successful therapy practice based in Chicago. And she started that in 2015. And then in 2023, she began working with her husband to develop a custom dashboard designed to provide insights into the health of her group therapy practice, and also to empower her team with data to enhance their ability to effect meaningful change. From there, Tory, her husband, and two other family members with complementary skill sets came together as a founding team to develop the first ever automated dashboard, PracticeVital. It really is an awesome tool. I've been using it the last couple months, and I've been impressed with Tory, with her team, and with the product that they're developing. It's really fantastic, so I highly recommend it. And please enjoy this conversation I had with Tory from PracticeVital.com. Hello, Tory. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Uriah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's so fun to be able to chat with you officially on the record about all the things that we're mutually interested in. Yes.
Totally. I've been listening to your podcast for a long time, so totally psyched to be here today.
That's fantastic. And people won't be able to see this, but I am in fact wearing a PracticeVital t-shirt. So I am representing, no sponsorship, no affiliate links here, I don't think, but I am representing PracticeVital. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you've been a great fan, a good loyal fan. Thank you.
That's awesome. So for folks who don't know about you and PracticeVital, it'd be awesome just to share a little bit about your story and how you kind of came up with the idea and what it is.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a practice owner and a therapist, and I've been a practice owner for the past 10 years. And really, PracticeVital, so first of all, it's an automated dashboard, the only automated dashboard that exists at this time. And it was born out of my own pain points as a practice owner. And so I had 3 kids in 5 years and was on maternity leave and consistently working from the hospital. Like I'd have a child and then I'd have my laptop right afterwards. And, I think the third time I just realized my practice can't run without me very well. I had hired a few new people and just felt like I don't have a good grasp of what's going on. And had I had PracticeVital at that time, I think I could have just breathed a sigh of relief or known exactly what needed to change, but I didn't. I had nothing that showed me any data, besides, a few spreadsheets, which were optionally kept up to date. So, so I was hearing about people talking about dashboards all the time. It was just people would talk about them in Facebook communities, and I was kind of like, what is this? And how do I get one? It seemed like you could go to a really expensive training and maybe they would set one up for you or give you some version of one, but that just isn't what I was looking for. So I enlisted my husband. He was a consultant for many years and in technology. I asked him to build a dashboard for me, whatever that meant. We started sort of working on it together. And I said, a big part of this isn't for me to just have the data. I want my therapists to have the data. I want them to know how they're doing. So it's empowering. And so we're all on the same page and have kind of joint accountability for what's happening at the practice. So we said, well, then we need to probably set up some kind of Looker studio where they can see it. And, some people have versions of that. So we got started with it. And over dinner one night, we had his cousin over for dinner and her husband, and started telling them about this idea. And they've always been entrepreneurial and excited about different ideas that we've had. And they just said, let's get started on this. Like, this sounds like a really fun project just to work on it for my practice. So Tom, who is our software engineer, went to MIT, big, very impressive software engineer. He got to work and started building something that was beyond my wildest dreams of what this could look like. And so the 4 of us, my husband, me, his cousin, and his cousin's husband, I know it's always like, who are we all to each other? But we're very close. We live nearby and we all do it full time now. So it's been a remarkable journey. We only started last October. But we are displaying all of the metrics and key performance indicators that people haven't had access to before or haven't been tracking consistently or certainly haven't had in an automated way.
That's amazing. Two thoughts. So number one, it's not fair that you have so much strategic advantage within your family. That's not fair, but it's
Totally.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then also, I love when a business is birthed out of a pain point that you're experiencing. Same thing for me with Productive Therapist. I needed part-time admin support. Like, how am I going to do this? And then I realized that other people needed the same thing, and the story goes, right? I think that's fantastic because you know you're building something that is useful because there's a lot of people like you. I think that's a fantastic place to start, isn't it?
It is. It really is. And you feel passionate about it. It's something, making things easier on practice owners is a dream for me. It was so hard. It has been so hard to be a practice owner. And I just think that if we can do anything to make it a little bit easier, we should be,
I like
especially to
that.
help practice owners compete against all of the giant conglomerates that are out there now and give us a little bit of an advantage to really
That is
have
real.
on our business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is real. So as you were talking a minute ago, I had this sort of picture in my mind. It started with a car, but then I kind of moved to an airplane. But would you say that running a group practice without some sort of dashboard is kind of like flying a commercial jet with no instruments or with no like readouts in front of you? Is that a good
Love
analogy?
that. I think it's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not when I
Like you
had thought
shouldn't
of
do
it
it.
before, but it's not advisable, right? Like
Yeah.
no one
Maybe
should
you could
take
pull it
off.
off, but you might crash and burn. Yes.
Totally. And like what we pay attention to grows. Like that's what, if we're not paying attention to the data, we're just blindly going about.
Right.
Um, yeah, and it's interesting. So I'll talk to different customers, and sometimes they're kind of disheartened when they see their data, and they're like, "Oh
hmm
my
hmm
gosh, I had no idea it was this bad." And to me, knowledge is power. Like that, you need to know that it was that bad before you can make a change. So
Yes.
you can turn a blind eye and you can keep doing things exactly the way you were doing. That's an option. Or you can use this data to make important changes that are going to boost your revenue and help your clinicians do their work in a more effective way for their clients. So,
Yeah. I wonder if that's true for a lot of therapists in terms of numbers and paying attention to numbers. It's true for finances often, right? Like they don't necessarily want to look at that and run their business from with the financial data in mind. Maybe a little bit more on feeling and intuition and all these kind of things. And I wonder if that's similar for practice owners, kind of not wanting to really know the ins and outs of their other metrics. I don't know. Do you think that would be true?
I think
Or does it
that we
depend?
like to, I think we often make decisions based on feeling,
Right.
and it's really common for therapists and practice owners. And we like people, so we want to keep them. And then we just are in a really unique situation where we're the only field. I don't know if you can think of another field, but we're the only one, in my opinion, that does our business is all behind closed doors. We
Sure.
don't actually have any idea how our team is doing. We just trust, and they go behind, they do their work and they close the door, and then we think, probably something good is happening, but suddenly there's a revolving door of clients where we're kind of have a sense of that going on, but we don't have a really good sense. And there's no other business that runs that way.
hmm That's an interesting observation. Yeah. I've thought about that many times with my group practice. Like, of course, I try to hire the best people and give them resources and empower them, train them. But at the end
Yeah,
of the day, I don't know the clients. I don't have any oversight into what's happening in those rooms with the closed doors. We just
right,
look at the numbers of session counts and, revenue and all these kinds of different things.
right.
But if, in my experience, I'm sure we can get into this, but getting the data out of my EHR and out of other sources and trying to pull it together was always a painful experience for me. So I'm guessing that's part of the challenge that you're solving with PracticeVital. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think just the downloading the pivot tables that no one quite
hmm
to do. But it's interesting because a lot of the people who actually are our happiest customers or who are customers of ours say they love data, and they say that
Okay.
they've been really curious about it, and maybe they even know how to do the pivot tables and they know how to make the dashboard, but it still had shortcomings where it wasn't automated. It wasn't something they could share openly with their clinicians. And a lot of the benefit of our tool is the design behind it and
Hmm.
the aesthetics. It makes it very motivating for clinicians to see their information in a way that makes sense to them. So if they see
Definitely.
it and they see their numbers, they see their retention in the way that we present it, they're really struck by that. Whereas if you send them some numbers in an Excel sheet or you send them an email that says you have overdue notes, it just doesn't have the same impact.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think most therapists want to know, like on some level, we want to know how we're doing, if we're doing a good job, especially when it comes to client retention and outcomes and,
I think we
do people stay with us? We want to know that, but usually we just kind of like guess or we go on feeling of like, I think most of my clients get better. Um, but we don't always know, right? And this is one way to know, like, how are you actually performing as a therapist in this role? And if you don't have the
right.
information, then what do you have to go on? You just kind of like, yeah, you guess.
It's so much guesswork. And I think therapists don't even know really basic things about how they're doing. A lot of times they don't know what they're averaging per week and they don't know. And then the end of the year comes and they think, I didn't make as much money as I was hoping to this year.
Right.
And they realize they were really averaging 18 clients a week instead of the 25 that they were supposed to have or that they thought they were having. So I think there's just a lot of empowering information, having it regularly at their fingertips. We encourage people to send the reports to their clinicians once a week. And so they're seeing it regularly. There's no surprises. Nobody's surprised anymore. But to your point, I had an exit interview with a therapist who left my practice a couple of years ago. And she said her main feedback for me was I didn't feel like I had a lot of information about how I
Hmm.
was doing. I wanted more feedback. And that really struck me because I thought that I kind of said good job, but I didn't have much to go on in terms of what was a
Hmm.
good job um, or much information to provide to her. So I think you're right that people want to know how they're doing in any job. They want to have a sense of whether they're moving ahead, whether there will be an advancement, are they on track for a bonus? What kind of therapist am I?
And positive affirmation is helpful. Everyone wants to hear a good job from their boss, but it's
Yeah,
so much more powerful when it's tied to like, hey, look at these numbers. Look how you're
yeah,
improving in this area and
yeah,
in this area and in this area. I think
yes,
that's actual feedback that helps with professional development and growth. So
yeah.
that's really a gift, I think.
Yeah, and to the point on professional development, I think one thing we're finding is that a lot of our practices are actually promoting people who they're seeing have a very strong retention rate or a low churn rate,
Hmm.
high utilization, and they're saying, "What are you doing to make that happen?
Right.
Why don't you be the one who trains the rest of the team?" And so
I like
making
that.
sure you have the right people in the right seats based on the numbers, but then also empowering those people to share their information with everybody else. So
That's a
it really
great one.
helps people to kind of have a path within their practice. And I think that also helps with retention. If people feel like
Yeah.
I can really stay within this practice and continue to grow.
Promoting the superstars is always a good idea in some
Yeah,
way. Yeah, yeah.
yes, yeah,
So let's get into the specifics a little bit. So, what do you think are some of the maybe the top two or three metrics that you see clinicians and practice owners finding the most useful to look at on a regular basis?
sure. Well, number one is always retention. I think it's
Hmm.
something that we all know we need to be tracking, but it is nearly impossible to track on your own, or it's just so time consuming. And so almost every practice owner I've met with will say, we were tracking retention, but we would, 6 months would go by and we would just not do it because things would get busy and it was just too cumbersome. And we have a lot of practices with 80 therapists or, just very,
Yeah.
very practices. So imagine doing that for that many
No, thank
people.
you.
It's just not possible. So retention is key. And what we do is we track it based on 8 sessions as kind of the standard, the industry standard. And there's research that shows that client
Hmm.
outcomes are much better if they stay for longer than 8 sessions or 8 or more. So we set it to that, but then we have an entire retention report where we can look at which clinicians are retaining or what is their percentage of retention at 3 sessions, at 4 sessions, at 5, all the way up to 21. So you're really able to see where the cliff might happen. And some practice
Hmm.
owners have been able to say, this clinician, they keep people for 4 sessions and then something happens. So let's figure out what's happening there. And one tip I'll often give them is have your practice manager reach out, or your intake coordinator, at the 4 session mark and say, how are things going? Give some kind of evaluation. And we can always move you to another therapist if things aren't working out, so that you're not losing those clients altogether if they are kind of a polarizing therapist where some people stay, some people don't.
So client retention is number one. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's
Number
what
one.
I'm always concerned about and paying attention to. And I totally relate to what you're saying there. I would be really good about tracking those metrics and sharing them with my staff, with my team, and then I would completely like stop doing it.
Exactly.
And some of those conversations were always, so there's so many variables to retention at times. So we would look at it and we would go like, okay, well, let's look at these 4 people and why did they leave too soon? And
Yeah.
the 4 different reasons. And so it was like, was this a helpful conversation? I don't know. Did it feel helpful? No.
Right.
So that was
Right.
always a little bit of a trick to
Yeah.
figure out. And I think I'm just thinking as we're talking here, I found those conversations not as helpful as I wanted them to be. And so I think that's probably part of the reason why I stopped doing it, because I don't think their takeaways were terribly valuable. And I wasn't sure that I was helping them. Does that
Sure.
make sense?
Sure. It absolutely makes sense. One thing I recommend is, so one thing that our tool does is we'll sort people based on retention and who's retaining people for the longest and how many sessions people are having on average. So if people are in red, which kind of tells us there's a concern, I'll group them together and say, why don't you meet with these 5 people who are really
Hmm.
struggling with retention in particular? Give them our blog post on retention, 5 tips for improving retention, and just have a conversation. Because these are tools that will help them to become stronger therapists throughout their careers. And we really want to help them do that. We want to help them. Sometimes it's as simple as therapists don't know how to sell themselves in the beginning. They might be really good at listening for the first couple of sessions and people stick around, and then they realize we haven't even told them that here's the plan for treatment, here's the treatment goal. So sometimes it's just some really simple tips that you can give your team that will help with really improve their retention. So I do some coaching around that with people after their customers. The second metric I would say is average sessions per week. It's something that we almost every practice owner has an expectation or a commitment for their therapist to meet each week, and yet we're not tracking it on a weekly basis. We might track how many sessions they had that week, but we're not looking at what the average is. And so people will think, oh, I had 25 sessions this week. The next week they had 18. The average is really closer to 21. And yet they're not aware of that. So again, just making that top of mind can really help them to be more motivated around cancellations, around vacation time, and really to think through the long game in terms of getting that average up.
That is really helpful. I definitely have heard from a lot of practice owners who have challenges helping their team members live up to their commitments in terms of number of sessions. And so
Yeah,
having that information to be able to present it as a part of those accountability conversations, I think is really useful. I think some of us avoid that because it's uncomfortable to be able to say, hey,
yeah,
you committed to 15 sessions a week. Your average is actually 12 or
right.
whatever that might be. But it's super important. And if we don't do that, then ultimately that clinician probably doesn't get what they're looking for in terms of accruing hours or generating income, and then the
Right.
business is suffering as well. So good
100%.
info.
Yeah, and I learned from working with my accountant that our break-even point at my practice was 13 sessions.
Hmm.
So if I have somebody who's coming, and then you think about benefits and all different things, so you really have to know what your break-even point is, and then also make sure that your clinicians are sticking with that commitment. But the data is a great neutralizer. It takes the emotion out of it. So I know,
Sure.
like you said, it can be challenging to have those conversations, but being able to come in and just say, here's the data, it's not coming from me.
Right.
This
Right.
is what's out there, has been so helpful for practice owners to minimize those challenging conversations.
That's good. Do you have, or have you thought about creating some simple scripts for practice owners to like start those conversations and have those conversations? Because that could be really helpful.
That's a great idea. I model
Yeah.
them, I think, a lot when I'm having the
Hmm.
training calls with people. Just here are some talking points. We also
Right.
have guide that all of our customers give their therapists that say, here's why all of these numbers are helpful for you. And really the numbers are a win-win-win. Like it's helpful for them, it's helpful for their clients, it's helpful for the practice. So we share that information and that makes it a lot easier as well.
That's good. Have you heard any stories about practice owners sharing metrics and data with a clinician and it causing problems for that clinician, whether that's anxiety about their performance or something else? Have you heard any of those kinds of stories?
I have not yet. I have practice owners express fear about that happening a lot of the
Right,
time.
right.
Then they usually come back, and if I talk to them a month later or something, they're like, this has been life-changing. Like having these numbers has made the conversations easier. No, and I share them with my team, and my team has been really excited about it. They
Hmm.
like information. One of our customers gave us this idea, and it was brilliant. Just what if you just asked your team how often they wanted to see their information, or if they
Okay.
even want to? That's another way of empowering
Hmm.
them. It's just, I have this information. It's helpful for us for running the practice. Would you also be interested in seeing it? And if
I like
so,
that.
how? Yeah.
I do like that. And I imagine like introducing something like this would be a change for the clinicians in a practice initially. But once they get used to it, it's just part of the way things are. And then for new clinicians that are hired, they come into the practice and this is just what we do. And it's, obviously, I think most therapists would want to frame this as a positive, like growth minded, abundance minded experience, not like, corporate oversight of some
Yeah.
sort.
Yeah, which it definitely is. I think
Sure.
a lot of people are just seeing their practice overall thrive. And as we know as practice owners, if you don't have a profitable practice, you don't have a practice. So it's really in the best interest of everyone to have a practice that's running efficiently, that's working well, where everybody's working together towards common goals. Otherwise, we're just shooting in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all want to be effective in the work that we're doing, not just to feel good, but to actually do the good. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
What is on the roadmap for Practice Vital, if you don't mind
Oh,
sharing?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
What's
a fun question.
happening?
So we're adding additional EHRs that we work with. So we just recently added intake queue/practice queue. We're kind of figuring out what will be next after that. And then we're working on revenue right now. So we're adding in revenue data about average cost per session, different percentages by payer. Um, a lot of helpful information for making decisions for the practice overall.
That's good. I like it. One thing I was thinking about recently was the concept of the lifetime value of a customer
Uh-huh.
or a client. Like on average, how long do people stay? And if we bring a client into the practice, about how much is that worth to the practice?
Yeah.
Could someone take information that they find in Practice Vital and get that
Yes.
number? Or do you
Yeah.
already have that
We have
baked
those
in?
numbers.
You
Yes.
do. Okay.
Yeah. So we have a practice-wide dashboard now, and so it's kind of a sum of all of the totals from different clinicians. And so, like I know my practice-wide retention rate is 72%. So that will tell me that
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
70% of our clients are staying for at least 8 sessions.
Hmm.
Um, and we can see that information in a number of different ways. But I think I can also look at our retention report, see the average that each client stays. And so I have some clinicians who hold on to clients for 21 sessions on average, some who stay for 13, but I can average all of that out and I can find that out. Yes, so
Okay, that's
definitely.
good.
Yes, yeah. And I know Casey Compton had said at the last conference, she said that their practice loses money if a client stays for fewer than 7 sessions.
Is that right? 7.
Sessions was their
Wow.
point. Yeah.
I'm guessing I would want to ask her a follow-up question on that one, but I would guess that has something to do with their cost to acquire that client potentially. Because like,
Yeah. The
otherwise, what are the
marketing
costs
cost.
involved? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that too, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
practice owners, it's interesting, they'll tell me their numbers, so they know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's certainly like Google ads are expensive. A lot of the marketing costs. Then it's the time of completing the paperwork, and then I think the
Admin
loss
costs, of course.
potential as well. Like if I
Hmm.
remember her saying something like, if you when I hand a new client or refer a new client to one of the therapists on our team, it's like I'm handing them $1,000, because maybe
Interesting.
that's, what they would be earning for the practice. And so if they lose them after one session, that's a loss of $900. So, I think that's another way to think of it.
Definitely. That's interesting. For some reason, that makes me think about the book that I'm listening to right now. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's fantastic, and it's written by a guy who has spent 25 years in the restaurant industry and won the best restaurant in the world award for 11 Madison Park. But the book is all about how to create a culture in a business, both with the team and with your customers, that
Mm.
creates belonging and a sense of like hospitality and welcoming. And I think I'm listening to this book and I'm applying it to both of my businesses and thinking about how can we do that more and really surprise and delight, the clients that come in. So I don't know how that connects to our conversation exactly, but it's pretty inspiring.
I love that. Well, the idea
Yeah.
of just really great culture and the idea of hospitality, I think is a different way to think of it too. We talk a lot about
Yes.
culture among group
Yes.
practice, but to say hospitality is a really interesting way. And I think that can feed into, it's almost like we're having a conversation about these metrics and these numbers, but then the numbers mean something. And a lot of it's
Mm-hmm.
about how you
Mm-hmm.
treat your clients and what maybe it's about how welcomed they feel into the practice as well.
Definitely.
So there's
Yeah.
so many different factors that go into that. And I think that's part of the fun is kind of figuring out what the magic equation is. It creates that dynamic that makes a client feel really understood or safe for
Yeah.
her.
I
Yeah.
think that's such a nice thing, and it's the counter opposite to, what do you call it? Big box mental health, where maybe
Yeah.
you go to Walgreens to get your itch cream and a little bit of therapy. Like we can do better than
Scary,
that, right?
scary what it's becoming.
I know. I'm so interested to see what our industry is going to look like in 2 to 5, 10 years. I really don't know. I mean, I have some ideas, but I
Yeah.
don't know what it's going to look like. But
Yes.
I definitely believe in companies like yours and mine that are doing good for the
Yeah.
mental health space and trying to empower therapists and help them succeed. I think that matters a whole lot.
I just want group practices to survive. I think there's so
Me
much
too.
power in the group practice model, or a group of clinicians, I should say,
Sure.
working together. And our jobs are so isolating as it is, and we're behind closed doors so much of the time. To have a community is so important. And I feel like we need that. And I want group practices to be able to compete against all of what you're talking about, and Walgreens,
Definitely.
be able to compete against Walgreens and
I couldn't agree more. I definitely don't want group practice to become like the local bookstore in the era of Amazon. That's what I don't want to happen, genuinely. Because that's not
like
good for, honestly, it's not good for anybody.
it's not good for anybody. And I fear that could happen. And, in
Hmm.
whatever way Practice Vital can help group practice owners just feel like they can compete, they can stay afloat, they can just breathe a sigh of relief or make things easier. Um, yes, I want to do that.
That's good. Well,
Productive
there's
day.
no doubt. There's no doubt that running a data-driven business is going to help you keep the doors open, continue to
Yeah.
offer services, and hopefully create the life that you want to live as the owner.
Yes.
So let's
Right.
connect more people with Practice Vital. Where can they go to find out more? Sign
Yeah.
up.
Thanks. So our website is the best way to reach us, www.practicevital.com. There's a contact form there. That's the best way. And then from there, we send you a calendar, um, booking link, and you can schedule with us. And it's such an easy onboarding process.
It
It's
really
not,
is.
yeah,
Truly.
it
It couldn't be easier.
really is. Yeah, Uriah, you're a great customer, and it takes 30 minutes probably to fill out our form, and then you're up and running. There's not a whole training process where you have to learn how to use it. Your numbers are just there. So, yeah, we would love to hear from any group practice owners who are interested in making their lives easier.
That's fantastic. Of course, we'll put those links in the show notes. But your domain, like your business name and your domain, so easy to remember, I think.
But,
Yeah,
yeah,
so good job on that. I know it's hard to come up with something that is available and
Yeah,
catchy.
exactly. Right. Yes, it was
Yeah.
tricky. And we've got a Facebook group. Any practice owners are welcome to join us, customer or not, to talk all things metrics, and then a newer Instagram handle as well. So
Okay, fantastic.
thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for being on the podcast, and I look forward to staying in touch. And definitely go sign up, check out PracticeVital, at least give it a demo, and I think you'll be impressed.
Thank you so much, Uriah.
That's it for today. Thanks so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and hit the subscribe button to make sure you never miss an episode. If you're looking for more personalized help, you can reach us through PracticeTherapist.com. Thanks so much for listening. We are Productive Therapist, and this is the podcast that helps therapists get more done and have more fun.